Hey, what's up guys? Yesterday the final episode of WandaVision aired, and this has been unlike anything we have seen from the MCU before. By far, their most experimental project they've done, and today we're going to stop and rank all 9 episodes from worst to best. So right off the bat, when I say worst to best, I'm not implying that there's any episodes in this series that I found boring. Honestly, I quite enjoyed all of them. But there are definitely some that were better than others, and there were definitely moments in some that you could say allowed my mind to wander a little bit. So with that said, let's get into my rankings. Coming in at number 9 is episode 3, Now in Color. In this episode, Wanda and Vision find themselves in a Brady Bunch-esque themed 70s setting, and the episode revolves around Wanda's ever-progressing pregnancy. If Now in Color is your worst episode of the series, you definitely have a good show in your hands, but there were some aspects of the episode that kind of fell flat for me. The first being the comedy. Now, there was definitely some funny moments in this episode, but overall, the comedy just kind of fell flat for me, especially compared to the first 2 episodes. And Wanda's pregnancy as a whole kind of just fell flat for me. But with all that said, I felt like the conclusion of the episode was really a turning point for the entire series. Everything from Vision's conversation with Agnes and Herb, to Wanda's conversation and eventual ousting of Monica from the Hex. And while I rank this as the worst episode of the series, the ending of Now in Color is definitely what hooked me to WandaVision. At number 8 is the first episode of WandaVision, titled Filmed Before a Live Studio Audience. This episode takes themes from classic sitcoms like The Dick Van Dyke Show, and is the first of 2 episodes colored in black and white. Honestly, I don't have much to say about this episode. It doesn't offer as much as some of the other episodes do, but it was just fun seeing Wanda and Vision in these roles. I absolutely love the special effects in this episode, and the way they were modeled after the special effects you would have seen in shows from this time era. And really the only lasting question I had from this particular episode is, what happened to Mr. Hart? At number 7 is the second episode of WandaVision, Don't Touch That Dial. In the second and last black and white episode of the series, Wanda and Vision enter themselves into the local Westview talent show and try to pass off their real magic as fake magic. I really could have ranked this episode higher because the humor in it was absolutely hilarious to me. Vision trying a piece of gum for the first time, which is brilliantly illustrated with how it affected his internal components, making him come across as drunk during the magic act. This episode also marks the first real questions of the series, with Wanda noticing things that are out of the ordinary throughout the episode. A toy helicopter in color, Dottie's red blood, and Agent Jimmy Woo calling out for her over the radio. Most of all, at the end of the episode, a mysterious figure climbs from a manhole on Wanda's street, but Wanda simply saying no resets the entire scene. The episode ends with Wanda magically becoming pregnant. While the scene is sweet, there's a little bit of a sense of evil in it as well. At number 6 is the 7th episode of the series, Breaking the Fourth Wall. This is of course the episode that reveals it was Agatha all along. For me, while I feel like that song was one of the best things to come out of the entire series, the majority of the rest of the episode kind of fell flat for me. I've always liked the Darcy character, and obviously I'm a huge Vision fan, but their interactions in this episode just didn't really work for me. I felt the show had a huge opportunity to put Vision in a office-esque environment, but he never even visited the office in this episode. And all the while, Wanda just kind of spends the entire episode out of commission following the events of the Halloween episode. The episode definitely had its moments: the Agatha song, the Agatha reveal, Monica confronting Wanda after re-entering the Hex. But it could be argued that much of this episode really didn't do much to advance the story. At number 5 is the 4th episode of the series, We Interrupt This Program. In some ways, this episode really served as a second pilot. For the first time, we're introduced to the outside of Westview, and we're reintroduced to some familiar faces: Darcy from Thor, Agent Woo from Ant-Man, and we also finally get a good look at S.W.O.R.D., which is more of a space-themed S.H.I.E.L.D. equivalent that was teased at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. This episode did a lot to answer a lot of the questions that were posed from the first 3 episodes. Who's the beekeeper at the end of episode 2? Who's the voice that called out to Wanda over the radio during episode 2? And we also got to see an alternate uncut version of Wanda throwing Monica out of the Hex.
I want you to leave.
And while I think we got the bigger reveal a couple episodes later, this episode really started to push the point that Wanda did have at least some control over the Hex. The 8th episode, Previously On, comes in at number 4. This episode picked up right where the 7th episode left off, with Wanda under the control of the newly revealed Agatha. I thought the character growth for Wanda in this episode, 6 years after her initial debut in Age of Ultron, was, nothing short of spectacular. From having to relive her parents' death, Their first moments alongside Vision following Pietro's death. I just really felt the storytelling and the acting in this episode were all really top notch. Even though we thought we had a good idea regarding Wanda's history, the show still managed to unveil that Wanda in fact had her power since birth, and they were only magnified by the Mind Stone. The ending of this episode was really intriguing for me as Agnes took Billy and Tommy hostage. But in that moment, I didn't really feel like it was Agnes the villain, but more so Agnes just being desperate and fearful of knowing what Wanda was capable of and what she had potentially unleashed. And of course, like I said, 6 years after her initial debut, this is the first time she was ever referred to as the Scarlet Witch in the MCU. The season finale, thoughtfully named the season finale, comes in at number 3 for me. This episode didn't have the big reveal or the cameo we were all hoping for, but all in all, I think it was still a good episode and a really fitting end for the series. The episode featured CGI heavy fight scenes you would expect from a Marvel show. And while I do think it did a good job answering the questions that we fans had, the answers to those questions may have not lived up to the expectations that some had built. I even saw that the hype for the finale had grown to a point where the show's director had to come out and kind of be like, hey guys, like I'm just warning y'all, we're not going to be able to meet these expectations. I do think it's important to remember that the cash cow for Marvel is the movies. It's not going to be the TV shows. It's never going to be the TV shows. So we really shouldn't be expecting to see somebody like Reed Richards or a member of the X-Men or somebody like that being revealed on the tiny screen rather than the big screen. Though I did think Paul Bettany hyping himself up as the big cameo that he always wanted to work with was just absolutely hilarious. I did think the ending of the episode and the series in general did a really good job setting Wanda up in her role for Doctor Strange's second film, Multiverse of Madness, which, you know, my excitement is just 10 out of 10. Can't wait. At number 2, I have the 6th episode of the series, an all-new Halloween Spooktacular. Following the end of the 5th episode with the argument between Wanda and Vision and the reveal of Evan Peters as Pietro, the stakes and the pace of this episode remained high. I loved how all the characters donned their comic accurate costumes. This was the first time that Tommy and Billy revealed their abilities. And the one big question I had coming out of the 5th episode was that would this Pietro have his speed? I was wondering how quickly that would be answered, and it was answered very quickly in the Malcolm in the Middle-esque intro for this episode. And kind of unfortunately, even with him being in quite a few of the WandaVision episodes, this is really the only episode that gives Pietro a good amount of screen time, and Evan Peters definitely didn't waste it. And you really got a good idea in this episode that he wasn't just a puppet like so many of the other people in Westview were. And finally, the final scenes in this episode answered what was personally my biggest question even coming into the show, and that is what would happen to Vision outside of Westview. If you remember, Billy kind of sensed Vision outside of Westview. Vision was kind of starting to piece by piece disappear, and Wanda epically and kind of frighteningly was able to expand the hex and save Vision while also taking in quite a few sword members and making them like circus act. Despite how good this episode was, there is still one more that outranks it. And my favorite episode of WandaVision was the 5th installment on a very special episode. The sitcom elements of this episode take place in the 80s with inspirations from Family Ties. But honestly, the time era that this episode took place really ended up not mattering. As the title indicated, this was a very special episode full of twists, heartbreaks, emotional, dramatic moments. My personal favorite aspect of this episode was the argument between Wanda and Vision after Vision was able to remove Norm from Wanda's enchantment at the office, and Vision was able to kind of learn that Norm was not only in pain under Wanda's enchantment, but he also had a family. This was the episode where the twins started out as babies, and then they quickly became 5-year-olds, and they quickly became 10-year-olds, and I thought that they were going to keep aging up, but they stayed 10 years old. They got a puppy named Sparky in this episode, and by the end of this episode, Sparky was dead. And of course, we come to find out that that was Agnes as well. But most importantly, I think the reveal of Evan Peters being recast as Pietro was what really sent fans of the show and fans of Marvel and fans of the X-Men into a frenzy just online with theories and ideas and, you know, all that good stuff. So that is my list, ranking from number 9 all the way down to number 1 of my favorite episodes of WandaVision. Let me know down in the comments if you agree, if you disagree. If you do disagree, what do you disagree with? What was your favorite episode? And then I'd like to know what some of y'all's favorite scenes were. I know mine personally was obviously the Pietro reveal, the argument between Wanda and Vision, the Agatha song. And personally, I'd really like the whole Vision, the White Vision boat thing that kind of awoke White Vision. And I am super curious where that leads to. Where does Vision appear in the MCU next? What movie? I'm assuming he's not going to get a spin-off or his own show. So I'm really curious about where he's going to end up later on. So if you have any ideas or theories, please drop that down in the comments. And just thanks for watching, guys. I hope y'all are back for the next one. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell so you know when more videos like this are posted. And thanks for watching. Bye.